Outside Cape Town, South Africa, there is a place known as the Cape Flats. Home to thousands of decent, peace-loving people, it is nevertheless gripped by violent lawlessness. A gang culture rules here. Here they live and die by the gun. Ernie Peters, or Ernie LaPeppa as he is known, and Ivan Waldeck come from the same background and in a sense share the same dreams and aspirations. Both men know this prison. One of them is presently awaiting trial here. The other spent 10 years behind these walls. Each has his own perception of peace. Said the angel to the hungry man, "Answer my question if you can. Will you feed on a slice of life or a bitter piece of death?" The people who live here walk a narrow line that separates life from death. The frequency of the funerals running past their doors bears witness to this truth.
The
greatest gangster, the biggest smuggler, come to that dead end.
Ik slaap zo met hem. Ik slaap in alle tijden zo. Ik wil vrede, ik wil niet van jou tegen, maar ik ga niet doodgaan. Ik wil op vrede in.
There are rules and regulations, there are laws in gangsterism. And one of the rules is when you go in, the only way out is death.
Alles het begin en 'n einde. Die vraag is net hoe gaan ze dood of hoe wil ze doodgaan?
Ask anyone who lives here and they will tell you that when the angel of opportunity flew over the Cape Flats, he kept to a very high altitude. No land of promise, this. Ernie Peters has taken what gaps there are and made the most of them. He is one of the biggest shebeen owners in Belhar. A man with standards, Ernie tries to keep his establishments respectable. He is a popular figure. Everyone knows him as Ernie LaPeppa. This after his first business, LaPeppa's Disco and Pool Club. LaPeppa and Waldeck have known each other since early childhood. Sometimes rivals, sometimes friends, often enemies. They both carry scars from one particular confrontation, knives over a girl. But today these differences are forgotten. Ernie LaPeppa believes in good business, in hard-working employees, happy customers, but he does not believe in liquor licenses.
A dranklicensie, dat is een goede idee. A dranklicensie is een goede idee, maar hij is zo goed dat hulle sê, sy tyd om jou wyn te verkoop. Die smokkel is mos in ons bloed, man. Hy is wat ons reg doen.
This is a world in which a great deal is not legal, an existence where expediency has always flourished. But when does convenience, the thin end of a wedge once slipped under the weight of apartheid, become criminality? Ernie has his own understanding. Real crimes are theft, rape, murder. His illegal liquor sales fall outside his definition. This, he says, is survival.
Ik smokkel mos bier. Ik het 7 plekke wat bier verkoop. Dat moet onwettig, ik smokkel mos daarmee.
The beer and whatever else goes with it brings in a good living. Good business brings security, a rough guarantee on an even rougher turf. Some say that the only way to win is to take from others what they would be only too happy to take from you. Ernie LaPeppa says he does not take. He merely defends what is his.
Ik sê ek het klaar arm groot word, my kinders gaan arm groot word. Ek sal doodgaan vir my kinders om vir hulle beter toekoms te gee. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. And mother, we love you and we care. We know you'll always be there through storm.
The armies are gangs, the soldiers gangsters, every one a mother's son. Ernie LaPeppa remembers the women in his young life. There were many of them. There were few men, temporary figures. All of them eventually disappeared, ghosts with uncertain faces. But Ernie's sense of family, his security, comes from the women. His mother, his grandmother now dead, 2 sisters, his cousins and his Aunt Rosie.
Ons het op een hele groot werf het ons gebly, nee, ons in die heel een kant en sy ma het aan die ander kant gebly.
Ek het by my ouma groot geword, al die jare by my ouma groot geword. My ma het by ons gebly, seker, tot ek so, as nou mooi kan ook, seker so 8, 9. Ek het my ma aan 'n man ontmoet. En sy het ons is op 'n jaard gebly, waar daar klomp sinkhokkies was, en sy het op in die ander kant ook in 'n sinkie gebly, saam met die manne sien ons saam gebly.
Hulle het as te ware nooit soontoe gegaan nie, hulle was maar net by die huis, by ons, soos wat ons skool toe gegaan het, teruggekom het, daar was ons maar net by die huis, hulle het nooit soontoe gegaan eintlik.
Sy het 'n drankprobleem, sy het nog 'n drankprobleem, maar met die drankprobleem was sy nog aardig goeie ma.
Ernie cannot remember his father, not much more than a name, David. He died when Ernie was 7 months old. LaPeppa has 2 half-sisters, each born of a different father. Keeping body and soul together was a constant struggle.
Psalm 23, Here is my herder, Psalm van David.
Auntie Rosie and Grandma brought them up in the fear of God, but this was a passing reverence, later replaced by a stronger gospel. The rules for survival on the streets.
I don't want to be Ernie LaPeppa, I want to be Ernie Peters myself. I don't want to be somebody else. Because nowadays, after all these years of gang fights, you actually forget who you are. We've learned during our gang fights that you must be a bit afraid of somebody, to be careful. Because once you're not afraid of the guys, you won't be careful. And if you're not careful, then it won't last long. I never stopped at the Red Robot during this time, which I know people want to kill me. I never park behind cars. I always time the robots until it's green. Always look around me, always look in my mirrors. If the robot is red, I want to be in front. And when I stand in front, I still look in my mirrors. I'm never alone. I've always got somebody with me that's got a legal weapon.
This is a place of separate worlds, men in one and women in the other. The rule of the street suggests that the ties of a single relationship make one weaker. The responsibilities of love are much too powerful. Ernie likes to have a lot of girls around him. He has a group, 6 or 7 of them, staying with him in one of his houses in Belhar. Life has a party feel to it, and he buys them a good life. Perhaps they hold some memory of a childhood security. Behind every gangster there is a child, buried somewhere in the innocence of the past. Ahead lie other lives, and the fear is that they will follow their fathers into the closed circle of life in this less than perfect place. Ernie bought a house for his mother in Elsie's River. One of his girlfriends, Gaynor, stays there with one of Ernie's sons. At 32, Ernie is the proud father of a dozen children, 12 children from 11 women.
There's no Vanessa, and that's it, no Marlon, and that's it.
Insel, Ashley,
En is Michelle,
Kalen.
Luciano, is baie.
Die Kalen, ek tel ons oor die huiskinders.
Gila,
En Lindsay.
wie die?
En jene, ek kan nie onthou nie, wie nog allemaal.
He sees his children regularly. His mother is proud of the fact that he honors his responsibilities. She says that he buys them everything they want. But despite this, they remain, like Ernie himself, the children of an absent father.
The young lovable huggable type of guy. And everything is to the back with a little sack. Got the side out, it's wiggity back. I came stumble with something bubble to keep it jumping. R&B, rap, cool, rap is what I'm jumping. Ain't nothing soft about this.
This is a hard turf. American gang culture rules here. The images are everywhere. The children grow up in the shadow of these graven images, learning to believe the myth. But there is nothing mythic about the reality of the violence. Gangs rule, gangs call the shots. You do what you're told. You don't argue. You walk where they tell you to walk. And if you can, you stay out of their way. Gang fights start without apparent reason. They fight over territory, they fight over drugs, they fight over women, they fight over anything and everything. A fight is a fight is a fight. It all starts at a desperately young age. Suddenly they cross a line, from fist to knives to guns. Ivan Waldeck knows this. He killed at the age of 14.
Een aand was my drome en my hoop vir die toekoms met eens weggeneem van my. Ek op daardie ouderdom was die leier van die Ugly Americans, die ouderdom van 14 jaar. En terwyl my meisie dans, het ek my vervies.
My broer, jy gaat die ding vertaal aan my broer, man. Die ding, het so heel saam, my broer,
Waldeck's story is no more nor no less than that of the Capulets and the Montagues, except that in this case, there is no poetry to soften the reality of death.
Ons het later 'n woordewisseling gekry toe ek my meisie gaan haal.
Nee man, vandag sy brand. Jare. Ons verby, ons loop. Oh, you want to say? I was in the dark, my son. Say. Oh, you want to may parang kakapitsakat pa sa iba. Sa isang praso. Ayun na sa praso. No, as gaan huis toe, man. Man, dit doen vir my waar 'n poes wat man. Hoekom is fok hy huis? Ons los die kak, man. Wat vind jy my skuld? Jou skuld ook, man. Sy weet dan hy sê en ek kom met die bragge dan ek het fok hom om 'n vuur aangegaan. Wat sou sy met die enemy?
Terwyl ek op pad uit was, het die man uitgekom in die mes. Ook 'n jong seun wat by Florida op skool was staan het 9. En hy het gekom met die mes om my te steek.
Jy het 'n mes?
Toe kom sien het ek, daar het ek my hande in my sak gesit. Ek moes maak of ek 'n mes het om myself te verdedig. Op daardie stadium het ek ook nog nie mes gedra nie. En ek het my hande in my sak gesit en vir hom probeer afweer met woorde om te sê dat hy die mes moet wegsit net as ons praat.
Kyk jou fokke mes.
Sy woorde aan my was dat ek my mes moet uithaal en ons mekaar steek. Hy het lelik gevloek na my en my meisie en na 'n lang staan en kyk het hy gesien dat ek nie die beweerde mes uithaal nie. En hy het dadelik gekom en my gesteek hier in my nek. En toe het ek dadelik probeer om die hele situasie te red en vir hom gesê, maar hy is onnodig, hoekom steek hy my? En terwyl ons in die woordewisseling was, het ek sy mes gegryp. En ek het hom met sy eie mes, het ek hom gesteek.
Ja, man,
En my meisie het my weer gegryp en my vriende het gekom en hulle het vir my daar van die toneel af weggeneem.
Stukkie beleid vir man, jare man, hy doen sy praat met my man, jare.
Die volgende oggend het ek myself gaan oorgee aan die polisie.
The truth about gang life is frightening. Once embroiled, there is no easy escape. Ivan Waldeck served his 10 years, from 15 to 25. He may have left the gangs, but he is incapable of leaving gangland. He now pursues a mission of peace amongst the gangsters. Some are oddly tolerant of his need to help them see the light, but others are suspicious. They see him as a threat. Bloodshed works for them.
Ons kan nie meer betroon nie. Ivan, jy kan nie iemand vertrou wat jy los in die warmte van die strijd nie.
Hoekom? Dink jy ek wil julle gelos het? Dink jy ek wil julle los in die warmte van die strijd?
Kom ek jou iets aan vertrouwen. Vertrouwen is amper soos 'n trofee. Wat jy wen. En as jy weer speel met jou vertrouwen op 'n lood jy het, dan jy weer speel om het weer terug te wen.
La Peppa tells Waldeck that he is on a hit list, advises him to sell his house in Belhar and leave.
Ivan, kom ek sê weer iets man.
Anyone who sponsors change is a serious threat.
Baie.
As nie dat mense begin dink dat jy laat hulle in die steek. Jy kan gaan vaar op vir hulle.
The dialogue is not only between these two men, it flows like a tide through an ensnared and captive community.
Ek is mos twee Ernies. Die ene wat die mense ken en die ene wat ek weet ek is.
Sal jy my laat doodskiet?
Nooit nie. Verstaan jy nie van my nie?
Ek kan nog gehoor wat jy sê en ek trek my baie.
Wat het jy gesê?
Maar ek gesê dit as genoeg, hy 2-3 minute wat ek hom gesê kan hom heel naar laat dink. Ek het gesê om in Belhar te hê. En hoe gou hy in Belhar bly uitgaan as met Pieter was out nie. Hy weet mos hoe kom ek so sê.
Daar was sekere van hulle wat opgestaan het en gesê het ek moet lewe. Want met die stelling wat hy maak oor die Belhar huis en wat dit maak vir my.
Wat het hy gesê?
Dat dalk hy my van sy manne moet laat skiet. Hulle moet van my skiet. Daar kom tye waar het goed is, is exciting. Is kwaai, jy het geld. Jy het mag. But there comes a time in your life, in the life of a gangster, where you just feel that it's enough. It's enough, it's enough. I had it all. Daar kom 'n tyd wat hy sê, mag my mamma dood gelê het by geboorte. Ek wil nie betrokke wees nie, maar dan is dit te laat. En hy voel net dat die aarde moet oopskeer en hy wil inval. Hy voel net dat die mag, die geld, rykdom, status, reputasie beteken niks. En op daardie stadium is daar niemand nie. Is net hy en homself wat binne beklei met mekaar. En klomp vra, many questions come to his mind. Why? Hoekom ek dit toegelaat om 'n gangster te raak?
And the gangsters? One thing about them is that they look so passive. They can stand for hours on the street corners talking about cars and the anti-crime group Pagad and the deaths of famous gangsters. Sometimes they stand so still that they look as if they're asleep. The street corner icon coiled like a spring. Drug and illegal weapons raids are a regular feature of Shabin life. There has been some breakage, and 3 safes built into walls have been prized loose and taken away.
Ek het nie geslaap nie. Ek het by 'n ander huis geslaap. Hulle daar ook skit. Toe skit hulle daar, kom dis nie die hek en goed is afgebreek. En die vrou met die sleutels van die kluise, ek weet nie wat hier aangegaan het nie. My kamer die is af, die hokkies het die is af, die hek is af. Dakplate. Allemaal met dakplate stukken.
Hoeveel ouens was hier geweest?
Seker so 60 nie.
Kan nie tel nie.
Hulle seker wag laat ammunisie kry. Hulle moet Rita dink ek is stupid man.
Hulle het ook op 'n guns en
Hulle dan woensdag aangeskit. Hulle kan mos nie weer kos skit soos gestaan nie.
Hulle is amper soos mense wat hier inkom wat op 'n winkel gaan inbreek. Hoe hulle hier diere aftrap en Lekambo, hulle gaan nou roep. So uitgevind het hulle. Die mekaar nie kan die een drukkie aan jou nou weer om by te lui te kom.
Ernie is here to open his 3 safes in front of witnesses.
Hoeveel is jou nou?
2.
Of ons sal eers jou 2 hanteer, kan hulle 2 slaap.
Ja man.
The police do what they can, but they are essentially part of the outside world, invaders from a space beyond the Cape Flats. They cannot fight on equal terms, as they are held in check by a civilized justice system. They are seen as toothless tigers. They cannot hit at the heart of the problem, and so they strike glancing blows.
As dit so warm word, daar ek 16 jaar oud. Ek het nie mooi klomp as ek 16 was.
There is nothing illegal in the safes. Some money, a few documents, the cell phone number of a prominent political figure. The issue changes now. Damage has been done, now that the guilty are proved innocent. Claims are discussed. Ernie claims 3,000 rands, compensation for damaged furniture, walls, doors, locks, a lengthy list of broken fabric.
Ek het nou vanoggend my plek se skade gekyk. My vriendin klap dan die mens het my brief van die skade. My skade was so 3.500 rand. Aan my plek. Ek het nou vanoggend die mense kom kyk aan my hekkers afgebreek met 3 deure stukken. Al my fiber spaarte met dakke stukken, 1 met notiepyn. En ek gedink as maar lekker ringe skade, ek sal nie 'n klein gesit nie, maar nou is hy vir 3.500 rand. Die ou vanoggend na kom kyk en besef my.
Jy moet maar so goed, jy moet maar so kwotasie kry dan moet jy dit maar. Ek sê jy moet nou maar iets insit.
Maar hoe gaan ek te werk, kaptein?
By jou prokureur, hy sal bespreek.
Met die prokureur. Okay, kaptein. Kyk die jare. Ek het al bewys dat ek saam met hulle werk, man. Ek gee hulle nie altyd as hulle by my plekke kos skat of so nie. Ek gee nie hulle backcheck nie. Ek gee my samewerk as hulle my vang met dit ding, ek vat my pak so man. So ek sien nie hoe kan hulle vir my altyd gee nie, so ek vat my pak.
Here Ernie's story ends for us, for the time being anyway. LePepper has left the Cape Flats, but not to a better place in the way one might hope. While we were making this program, the police re-entered his life in a more forceful way. Arrested for an alleged kidnapping, he was not granted bail and awaits trial in Paulsmoor, admittedly in a private cell. This was the same prison in which Ivan Waldeck spent 10 years, a long time, an entire youth in fact, but not long enough for him to understand the consequence of violence. He had to learn inside his own community what he could not learn in prison.
70 days after my release day, organized as usual a party for me, having a nice time there at Monwabisi. En ons het daar gedrink. Obviously was die meisies daar. Vlees op die kolen. En het was net 'n lekker tyd. En hulle het my vertel van hoe hulle rondgejaag was van die ander gangsters. Hoe hulle geïntimideer was, hoe die meisies nie kan loop waar hulle wil in die areas nie. Ek het toe 'n glas bier gevat. Toe kom my neefie in, Jonathan. Spooky en
ek sê. Nou,
jy weet, is van moeilikheid nou.
Die man wat die bier skink sê vir hom, maar dis Ivan se glas bier.
As Ivan nog altyd julle God.
Toe gaan ek uit en hulle keer, hulle vat die gun af en ek gaan uit en toe ek buitekant kom die woorde by my en dit het gemaak dat ek by myself kom en dat ek verander. Ivan, go out in this world and make it a better place. And I say no, the world out there is complicated, it's dangerous and it's vast. And I'm small and useless, what can I do? But the voice came back and said, just start and build a better you. But in Christ.
Think about His love and think about His goodness. And think about His grace.
The bullets often missed their mark. This is one of the tragic ironies here. The innocent suffer alongside the guilty. This is the funeral of the wrong man. Mistaken for someone else, he was cut down by an anonymous killer's bullet. There are two clear messages here, depending upon the way you think. The first is that it might be right to take revenge. The second is that it would be better to forgive.
When you give up your power, your money, or the government take it from you, then you stand alone. That's why I love these gangsters that much. I don't compromise with their nonsense. I don't agree with their stupid decisions. But I understand and I accept them and I love them and I will give my life for them. For one reason, to tell them there's hope.
But remember, this is a place avoided by angels. Goodness and mercy have yet to visit here, and they will not come as long as men have greed and guns. Ernie LaPeppa Peters awaits trial in Paulsmoor. Ivan Walbeck starts his trial afresh every morning.